Hi everyone, just wanted to do a review on some knives that I've bought recently. The make of knife is Wusthof and the range is the Classic. I wanted some new knives, not because I'm a great cook or a professional cook or anything like that. It's just that I had some fish to prepare recently and the knives that I had, well, they were just so blunt. It was really, I might as well have used a spoon or the back of a knife. So I decided, instead of having to keep buying new knives every few years, probably on my third or fourth set, that I get a decent set. And these Wusthof ones are the Classic range. And just looking at the reviews online, people have said that they've had theirs for decades, and if you look after them well, which I tend to do with my stuff, then they'll last me a long time, which is great. So they're a hard metal. On the Rockwell scale, which measures hardness, I don't know a lot about this, but it's 58. I know you can get a lot harder blades, particularly some of the Japanese blades are very hard. But what I've learned just by reading around is that they might keep their sharpness longer if they're harder. In fact, they do. But they're harder to sharpen yourself as well. And I just wanted to trade, and they're expensive. You know, I'm not a professional. This is just for home. This is just a very decent set for home to meet all of my needs without being too fancy or esoteric. So the Wusthof Classic knives. You can see I've got a 9cm paring knife here, and this is a 16cm utility knife. I just wanted a set that would meet my needs. Well, actually it's probably more for my wife's needs, because she does a lot more cooking than I do, and she was only using one knife before, the last of our reasonable knives, and that was getting used for everything, so it's time to get a new set. So we tend to use smaller knives. Some people have like great big things, and well, traditionally we've not used those. We stick with the smaller knives. So I've got probably about 3 that you would class as small, 3 that you would class as medium, and a couple of big ones as well. Now I want to mention this knife block. It's by ProCook and it's a 12 slot knife block, but I got this one because it was a fraction of the price of the Wusthof one, and it takes the knives really well. In the top 3 rows, the main 3 rows, you can get a 26cm blade in them, and it doesn't poke out the bottom. So it just about fits on the bottom there, on that row. And these ones underneath, these 3, just down here, they take a 14cm blade. And that was just perfect for what we want. So let's have a look at some of the ones that we got. You've already seen the paring knife, that's 9cm. They call this a sausage knife. It's 14cm. And it's got a gentle serration to it. Some knives have got a very deep or aggressive serrated blade, and in fact I've got one here. It's not a Wusthof, but it's very similar, which is why I've kept it in the same knife block. But if you take a look at, I don't know if you can see the serration on that, but it's very deep. It's quite aggressive, and that really tugs on things. You know, if you're trying to cut a soft roll, that really does tug, and it's actually quite hard to use. So I wanted a serrated blade. Both of these are 14cm, but I wanted it with a slightly more gentle. I'll keep that one out. Serration, which this one is. And I didn't want too many serrated knives either, because they're going to be quite hard for me to keep sharp. You know, I don't have all the fancy tools for that. I just have a steel, a sharpening steel, and as far as I'm aware, you can't use that on a serrated blade. Okay, so they're some of what I would call the small knives. I've used this on small bread rolls, vegetables. It cuts through a tomato unbelievably. I don't even know if they call this a tomato knife or a sausage knife, I can't remember, but it's a really useful knife to have, and we use that one quite a lot. What else do we have? Okay, well, we've got 2 more here. We've got the normal sized 20cm cook's knife. There's nothing unusual about that, but it comes from a range. They do this knife in everything from a 12cm up to 30 something. So I also got a smaller version of the same knife. This is a 14cm cook's knife, and for us again it's a really handy sort of size. I think the knife that we ended up using for just about everything in the end was 12cm, which is quite small, but we got used to it, and it seemed, you know, we don't need massive knives, as I said, and these smaller ones seem to do the job for us really well. They are very, very sharp. Straight out of the box, they're incredibly sharp. We bought, the reason I didn't get a set, because you can buy these already in a set, but we already had a 20cm bread knife and it just didn't seem big enough, so I've bought this now on its own, which is still part of the same classic range, but they call it a super slicer, and it's 26cm and it's fantastic. It's just so unbelievably sharp. It has a different type of serration too. They're almost scalloped, and after I'd ordered these knives, I was saying to my wife, look, be really careful, because when they come they're going to be sharp. Anyway, 2 days in, this nearly takes the top of my wife's finger off. Just so unbelievably sharp, and blood was everywhere. Anyway, we don't want to go into that too much. So this can be used, I've been told, for big fruits like melons and squashes. It can be used for cakes because it's got a nice long blade on it, and obviously we use it for crusty breads. It's just a great knife. It just goes through anything. You could do hams with it. So super slicer is what they call that. And the last one is a 17cm Santoku knife, and we use this for vegetables. There's no bolster on this. It's slightly different. This is more like the Icon range, the classic Icon range. They do say that if you've got a bolster, which is this big fat metal piece here, then there comes a point where you can't sharpen them right the way down to the bolster anymore, and you end up having to grind this bottom piece away. I can't see that that's going to be a problem for me. I was aware of it when I bought them, but I like the weight. They just feel like a very comfortable knife to hold. It's just a really nice weight to it as well. So this one doesn't have the bolster, and they do recommend that you hold it something like this, so you pinch the top but you've still got the handle. And when you do that, you do have a tremendous amount of control. It's surprising. The scalloped parts are meant to be to keep anything that you're cutting from sticking to the blade. So if it's a piece of cheese, or if it's, okay, it's not a cheese knife, but let's say onion or cucumber, that kind of a thing, it should keep it off of the blade. I've only had this one a couple of days actually, so I can't give you a really definitive answer on whether that's the case. But if you take a look at what we have here, so this is the set that I bought, okay, and it does include the Pro Cook, which really isn't part of the set, but it's the sort of thing, it's the set of knives that we thought we would use, that would be useful for us. The one that's missing out of this lot is a carving knife, so that will be something like this one, which is the 16-inch utility. It will be like this but longer, and I might even get it with the scallops on as well, because they do run like that. So a 20 or a 23cm. I've got a couple of slots left in the Pro Cook knife block, so one of those will probably go to a carving knife or a longer utility knife. But for us, I've got to say, these knives they're so sharp, they're comfortable. I'm just really pleased with them. Yes, you do pay a bit more, but I wanted to get a set that was going to last me, and I'm pretty sure that these will. So overall, I have to say I'm very pleased with these. If I'm feeling adventurous and want to do a bit of chopping, then I may upload another video.